I'm going down to the drugstore, buy a big old skeiny yarn. I'm gonna knit me a kitten, even if you don't give a darn.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode, which I think is 169 of the We Are Yarn podcast. My name is Amanda. Thank you for joining me today in my bedroom, because it's just ended up that this is really just the easiest place to sit down and do. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It is Sunday, the 18th, maybe. It's Father's Day in America, so happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there, and to your fathers or spouses who are fathers or whatever, you know. I hope you're having a great day. We actually got our day started really early, went out for breakfast at the Cracker Barrel, and then for Father's Day, my son and I purchased for Daddy a new grill. So we ran to Lowe's and let him pick out his grill, and it was a big time. We've had a good day. We're planning on using it tonight. It is way too hot for me to be drinking hot coffee, but since we went out for breakfast, I didn't make a pot of coffee, so I don't have any leftover room temperature coffee to make iced coffee with. I just want to say before I get going, thank you for all the well wishes on Instagram, on my post about my last day at my job, and I start a new one tomorrow. So it's going to be super fun. I'm going to be on day shifts. I hope it's going to be super fun. So I'm not going to be on the weird second shift schedule anymore. My commute is exactly the same, even though I'm going the completely opposite direction. And I think it's going to be pretty good. I'm going to be working fewer weekends. So I'm hoping that all of this together is going to actually end up, even though it's the same amount of time, actually more time at work, because at my former work, we just worked through lunch and had 8-hour shifts. At my new work, we're scheduled for 8.5-hour shifts and are required to take a half-hour lunch. So I'll probably have a few moments to still stitches during my lunch break. And I'm hoping that now that I'm moving to day shift, I'll be able to get into a habit like one of my lovely friends who gets up a little bit early and steals a few minutes in the morning to do some spinning and that sort of thing. So I'm hoping that my crafting will actually increase, and plus I'll be at home when my child is asleep, and that hasn't happened since I've started going back to work from when he was born. So I think it's going to be a good thing as far as my sanity and all that. But I have some things I want to talk about that's not related to my new job. But I guess that is related to the podcast, because if I have more time to spend crafting, I'm going to have more time, more things to talk about. And so I'll feel compelled to, you know, record more than once every 3 weeks or so. First, let's talk about the sweater knit along. So, you know, we're doing, if you're new, firstly, welcome. Thanks for coming to hang out with my little podcast. I've been doing this since 2011. Oh my gosh, have I been doing that this long? 2012, so 6 years now I've been doing this. I'm probably coming up on my podiversary. I need to pay attention to things like that. But so thanks for coming to hang out with me. I'm an old hat, and I appreciate you giving me some time, given all the new fancy podcasts with much higher production quality. I'm glad you're here. All right, so this year I wanted to make it the year of the sweater, and so that I felt like it was not an overwhelming task, I set myself a goal of 4 sweaters. Sweaters meaning, for me, that it's going to cover my body and most of my arms. I have kind of relaxed my idea of sweater for you guys to be covering most of the body and most of the arms, even if it's not necessarily a sleeve, you know, so that more of you can knit things that you're interested, or crochet or weave things that you're interested in creating. But I'm on sweater number 2 where I've broken it up into quarters, and so I'll have 4 quarters and 4 sweaters. If you guys who are playing along at home want to do that, that's great. A sweater a quarter is perfect. If you want to knit all of them at one time and get them all done in 1 quarter, that's fine. At the end of each quarter though, if you share your FO in the FO thread for that quarter, I will be drawing a name for a sweater pattern of your choice, just a giftable Ravelry pattern of your choice, sweater, or that fits in that category that I gave you earlier. So, and then at the end of the year, we're going to have a fabulous prize. So far, I have some sweet little stitch markers that look like the little lockable stitch markers that look like sheep. Thought I had something else to throw in the bag, and now I can't remember. But I also have been donated by Twist Fiber Studio, who makes these amazing bags. I have 2 of her amazing bags here. Yeah, Twist Fiber Studio. And then this one I got this year because it was just weird and fun and had cats. Anyway, Twist Fiber Studio is donating a sweater's quantity of yarn. Your choice of weight, your choice of color, and that's pretty awesome. So go over and show Ashley some love on her Etsy shop, and yeah, knit you 4 sweaters. If you knit 4 sweaters in the year, your name will go in the drawing for this amazing prize. I'm working on some ideas for how else I can beef up this package. Even if you don't win the package, at the end of the year you have 4 sweaters, so come on. Alright, so this quarter I've been working on the Lemongrass by Hoagie Locatelli. I've had this, and if you're new, also 3 years ago I did a stash down where I was really focusing on working from my stash, and that year of doing that has completely changed my mentality towards purchasing yarn. It's changed my mentality towards choosing patterns. It's interesting. But I've had this yarn in my stash for many moons. I don't remember when I got it. I had not entered it in my Ravelry stash when I got it. I realized much later that it wasn't there, and I went back and added it, so I don't know. But, so this is the Lemongrass by Hoagie Locatelli. I have chosen to not do the turtleneck sweater, the turtleneck neck. So that's that. But I couldn't come up with what to do with this Screamin' Green yarn until I saw that pattern in Screamin' Green. So I have completed the front and the back and 1 whole sleeve. And I'm on sleeve number 2. I have done exactly 1 decrease. So what I do for my sleeves, this is my little trick. I read through the direction, see how many decreases I need to do, and then I hook that many lockable stitch markers onto like the shoulder, or on this case on the little ribbing there. And then I put a little lockable stitch marker each time I do a decrease, and that helps me count my rows. You know, it's usually do your decrease every 6 rows or whatever, so that helps me count my rows. And then when I'm out of stitch markers, I know I'm done with my decreases. Voila! So you don't have to look at your pattern. So here we are, and I tried it on at Knit Group last week, and it's spot on, guys. It's going to be amazing. And I thought I was going to run out of yarn. Let's be honest. I didn't know how much yarn I had, but I had this much left after that sleeve of this ball, and I still have one more full ball remaining. So I'm in no danger of running out of yarn, and that makes me very, very happy. So this is the Lemongrass by Joji Locatelli. I'm super excited about it. I did once, at the beginning of May, my mojo had kind of waned, and I didn't want to knit on anything that I had, and so, but I wanted to work on the sweater, just didn't want to be knitting it. So I dug through my button stash, and everybody at Knit Group helped me narrow it down to these two. I have these, let's see, where's my buttonhole? I can stick it through the buttonhole. This fun button. That's just, you know, like from Joann's. But then I also have these beautiful buttons that I got at the SAF, that's the Southeast Animal Fiber Fair. Aren't they lovely? So, I mean, I think they would look really nice too. It's just on the fence with which one I actually want to use. I'm going to be honest, it will probably be the little cheapo Joann ones, just because I think they'll look better. But we'll see. I may sew one on one side and one on the other, and or we'll see. And then take pictures and decide. But that's screaming right along. You know, sleeves, I used to hate sleeves, and I would try to do them 2 at a time in hopes that way when I was done. But I'm beginning to see, especially with my sock experiment recently of doing just 1 at a time, I don't think 2 at a time's my jam anymore. I think it just slows me down too much and makes me feel like I'm not making any progress. So, but now, once your sleeve gets long enough that you don't have to turn your sweater, you can just flip your sleeve back and forth on the magic loop. I don't even notice how quickly I'm going. I don't notice, what am I trying to say? Maybe I do need more coffee. It is noticeable how quickly it grows. So I have less than 2 weeks left in this quarter to be able to get that done, and I think I'm going to be able to make it. At the end of it, I may get it done and not have an opportunity to actually weave the ends in or anything, but it's going to be good. I got a little excited and decided I wanted to cast on a new project. I have this plague right now where I want to cast on a project. It needs to be just difficult enough that it makes my brain kind of squeak together a little bit, but not so difficult that I can't just kind of memorize the pattern and go. And I'm having a hard time finding that pattern. I think I remember talking last time or the time before about this cowl with this big chunky yarn that I thought I would be finished with very, very quickly, and clearly I'm not. I haven't even picked it back up. That's the That Nice Stitch Cowl by Susan Ashcroft, and it's just out of chunky yarn, and I thought it'd zoom, and it looked like something I'd be able to commit to memory and go, and it wasn't. And then I was like, oh, well, look at that. I'll make the Dotted Race by Stephen West. And you guys, I think I've talked about this too. And it looks like something, you know, even given that it's short rows. I've done a couple of short row shawls, and they weren't terribly difficult. This one, I'm having to mark off every single row of the pattern as I go. It is not something I'm able to commit to memory. And I'm even using this amazing yarn that I hand spun. Maybe the problem is that I'm still in the black section, and once I get to something more not black, it'll be fun. That's a Loops Bullseye Bump. But it's just, I've been afraid to pick it up again because I don't want to. So then I see this pattern. I'm like, okay, that looks super easy. I'm going to do that. And then I got my friend Wendy of the Sassy Pants Knitter excited about it. And this is the Death's Chain by Leela Rabe. I saw, oh my goodness, what is her name? Of the Fibertown podcast. I'm sorry. My brain isn't. My caffeine has too much blood in it, right? Okay. So, I was like, that's just, you know, when you look at this pattern, when you look at it there, it's like, oh, that's just like Feather and Fan with some stockinette around it and big panels, and that'll be super easy. It has not been. The first thing I decided though when I was looking at it is that I want to do it in the round. And so I rewrote the directions for myself to work the front panel down to the armhole part there. And then I finished that. Then I'm going to do the back down to the armhole thing there. And then I'm going to join them in the round. And like I said, I finished the front panel. I need to cast on for the back. And I thought it was going to be easy and something I could commit to memory, and it is not. And that's okay too, I guess. And I'm really excited about it. Let me hold it with the cast on edge up, since that's going to be our top. And you can see the pretty lace pattern developing. That's an old shell pattern apparently. Not Feather and Fan, which is different. And there's a lot more going on in it than it appears. But it's not unpleasant to knit. Let me tell you, I live on the edge. I get really excited about a project and I really want to cast it on. And even this time I did a gauge swatch, and my gauge swatch was nowhere near the gauge that this calls for. This actually calls for a worsted weight. The Kestrel by Quince & Co., which is their linen. And you can tell looking at it, even from that far away, it's kind of it's very open. But it's a worsted Aran weight, and they want you knitting it on 10.5s. And what I pulled out of my stash, oh, I have a ball still balled up, is this was destined, I bought this to be a crochet tank in 2008. So this is 10 years old. It has been simmering in my stash for 10 years and it's finally ready to go. It's Knitbix Cotton in the Lantana colorway. It's a DK weight, right? Cotton's DK, which is not worsted or Aran. But there are several other people who had made this pattern out of this yarn, just gone down some needle sizes, and it has some ungodly number of, designed to be worn with 16 to 22 inches of positive ease. As shown, it has 20 inches of positive ease. And that's a lot. That's a lot of room to play. And so I just went down a couple of needle sizes to US 9. And I'm working on my Leicas. US 9, which is a 5.5 mil needle. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm just going to go. I'm going to knit, knit, knit. And it's going to be fine. And that's actually the mentality I had for the lemongrass. I don't even know what weight that yarn is. And you know what? It's working out just fine. And I hope this will end up being the same. So I have finished, like I said, the front panel down to my underarms, and I'm going to go back and do the back panel down to my underarms. I'm going to put a few more minutes on that sleeve, try to get a few more decreases in today, and then I'm going to cast on for that desk chain back. And then I'm going to join in the round, and hopefully it goes really quick. So that's the desk chain, and my failure at finding something that's actually kind of easy to do. Alright. But it is possible that once I get it, now that it's not as intensive, I'm not having to do as, where am I going with this? Once I start working in the round and my rows are much longer, maybe it won't feel as overwhelming as it did when I was just doing the quick back and forth business. And yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention, every time I tell you, my bag that my long sweaters live in is from Whimsy Stitches. It's this giant clear bag. It's one of his large size bags, and it's amazing. Whimsy Stitches. He's on Etsy right now. I hear there are some changes coming to Etsy, and he's looking to move off. So if you have a gift card you want to spend with him, you need to go do it. I have a gift card. I'm going to go spend it with him. Probably today. Okay. So, let's talk about some spinning. I actually tried to spin a little bit. I sat down at my sweet little wheel. I have a Majacraft Pioneer. And I have had this yarn. I think I finished this in March. Do you guys remember this? So this is a combo spin. It's 2 different 4-ounce braids. So this is a total of 8 ounces of fiber, spun with a goal of being fingering weight, but I think it probably leans more sportish. That's okay with me. And my goal was to spin other fiber that I have that we're about to talk about, and use these for a Japan sleeves, which is by Joji Locatelli, because she is my apparently knitting goddess right now. Everything Joji. So my goal was that, and when I was spinning this, I was hoping that after I got it done it would read pretty grayish, and so I'd do gray, and then I had this fiber that's black that we're about to talk about, and I would stripe them together. So this actually came out a little more blue than I expected. I'm not real sure now that I'm holding it next to the black. I'm pleased with it with the black. So I actually pulled this out. This is some Corey Del Top from Louette. This was actually donated to the podcast before I got pregnant. So 2014, I believe. Maybe 13, probably 14. I'm thinking 2014. And that summer they sent me some fiber and things to dye them with. And I did some dyeing experiments, and they were super fun. And I'm really pleased. I'm grateful that they sent this to me as a donation to the podcast. But now I'm beginning to think that maybe I need to use my white alongside this, and then it just be a lighter color sweater. And that way, you know, when February, March starts rolling around and it's still cold enough, you want a sweater, that sort of thing, but you want to be wearing spring colors. I really think this will be good for that time of year for me. So, boring white is probably what's going to be up on my wheel next. Good times, right? But let's talk about what I was going to use. Probably 8 or 10 years ago, I bought this lovely fiber from Frost Glen Alpacas. They're still a thing. Frost Glen. They're local to me. This was Loretta. It's the name of the sheep. Loretta 1. I don't know what 1 is. But I was just taken by it because it's this black with these little bits of silver. Isn't that beautiful? It was like $20 for this giant bag. Like, I had to work to make it fit in this basket. Giant bag of fiber. And I decided, I had this sitting up next to my desk so I could see it, and it was haunting me. Like, I need to get the next part spun up so that I can make that sweater. Now that I have a new plan, not going to happen anymore, but this is why I have a new plan. Not because I held it up next to the black and saw that I didn't like it. I had been trying to figure out how I was going to process this fiber, because it's just like they shaved it off over and threw it in the bag. And when I started spinning this, it's still kind of dirty. It's still dusty. But I tried 2 things. First, I just pulled out of the bag and drafted it on, you know, kind of short forward draw, but not, it was just awkward. And then I would let it ply back on itself. I pulled out a big, long bit of it and let it ply back on itself. And this is what I got. And I know that it would be much more even once I sat down and really started working at it. And when I plied it properly, you know, I had to... Okay. I know that when I plied it properly, it would come out much more even and nicer than this. But I just wanted to see how it would act, this fiber, if that I did no processing to it and just spun it that way. And it came out kind of wiry, and I'm just not real pleased with it. I'm just not pleased with the way it worked out. So then I ran back. I have owned these hand cards for ages and ages and ages and never actually used it. So I ran back and grabbed my hand cards. It's like, you know what? I need to quit being afraid of it. And see, this is part of why I'm afraid. I still have, there's still fiber in there. But I watched one more video about how to use them and just went to town. And I'm learning that there may be a best practice for one person versus another person in the fiber arts, but in the end, it's probably kind of hard to mess things up sometimes. So I just kind of went at it after it and did my thing with my hand cards and made a little roll-ag, and then this is what I got. It's super fluffy and happy, and it's really beautiful. Like, of the 2 preps, this is the prep I would prefer. Here's a bit that's a little more, came out a little thinner. It's floofy and happy, but it's too floofy and happy to hold with this, to knit in the same garment with that. And so I partially successful, partially not successful. I have decided that this is, like I've already said, this is not the fiber for this project, and I'm just, after I was done with that little mini experiment, I almost said, you know what, never mind. I've had this fiber in my stash for so long, there's not enough of it to send it to a mill and have it milled. Maybe I'll just offer it up for free and get it off my plate, because it's been following me around for so long and it's really lovely and it needs to be made into yarn. But I've kind of backpedaled on that. I'm not real sure now. I've considered maybe seeing if I can get my hands on a drum carder just to get it processed into something that's, you know, not just nothing. Get it put into a bat so that I have something I can work off of, but especially now that I've just pulled it out of the bag and spun it and didn't like it. I think I need, and this is, if I did this method, it would be so slow. And Mama ain't got that kind of time right now. I am proud of myself for pulling out the hand cards though. So, it is completely possible that in the future, going forward, especially some days I'll have to be up and be at the hospital at 5:30 in the morning. But many days it seems like it'll probably be more like 8:30. Especially on those days, I'm planning on trying to build a little bit of time in to spend. So maybe this white will go really fast because I'll just knock it out. And then I'll get on to my more colorful fiber once I feel good that I have the yarn to go with that all spun up. And I guess that's all I have to say now. Surprisingly, I thought there was more. So with that, I'm going to bid you adieu. I hope you have an amazing whatever amount of time it is until I speak to you again. I will try very hard to record somewhere in the first several days of July so that I can get out, so that I can draw a name for our winner for the sweater pattern this quarter. Oh, another quick thing about the sweater along, it's stash dash. If you do that with the Knit Girls, please absolutely double dip. I don't care if you're entering it, your yardage over there and then throwing it in my pot too. That's perfectly fine. And if you are participating in Stash Dash, you're amazing. I don't have the wherewithal to keep up with my yardage like that. And I'm not knitting enough these days to actually, I think, get much accomplished. So, but anyway. Bye guys. I hope you have a great, 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 great week. See ya.
I just can't wait to finish. I got the kitten knitting blues. No, I just can't wait to finish. That's why I got those kitten knitting blues.